So I've just finished this little painting here of a place called Crovie, which I think's called Crovie by the locals up. It's a little village up past Aberdeen. It's right, you know, if you go to the nose of Scotland, and it's near a place called Pennon. It's where they filmed a film called Local Hero. If you haven't seen Local Hero, you must see it. It's a great film. This is the second painting I've done of that wee place, and it was one of those paintings that, oh my god, was a battle. It was a real battle. Some paintings you'll find when you do some paintings, it's great. They go dead easy and everything falls into place, and it's like you don't have to think about it and it's done. Other times you get a painting, it's like, oh god.
So much time on these fucking projects. This is fucking shit. I fucking hate fun of this fucking class.
This was one of those paintings. When I came down this morning and looked at it, it looked as though, well, it looked as though it was in Mallorca or Spain or something. The colours were too bright, too gaudy. So I came down and mixed a whole batch of paint up and just messed it all up. It's actually a good way to attack a painting. If a painting's not working, just, I mean, you've got nothing to lose, just attack it, just mess it all up and get that painterly thing that everybody talks about. You'd like oil paintings to be painterly. So anyway, I attacked it and I just daubed paint on this foreground here, and it seemed to work, and I calmed down the colours, because the colours up in Crovie, in that part of the world, is very subdued and subtle. It's a lovely colour, and you find there's a lot of moisture in the air off the sea, and a lot of the atmosphere, it captures light very, very easily, and but the difficult thing is putting it on a canvas. That's the difficult thing. Anyway, Crovie's a little special place to me because I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my dad, in his great wisdom, decided to take the whole family, which consisted of my nana and papa, my auntie Net. I still call her auntie. I still call her Auntie Net, because when I was a wee boy I couldn't say Jeanette, so she got Auntie Net, and she's still Auntie Net till this, even today. And so there was her and her son David, my cousin, who was like a brother to me, and we all trooped off in the back of this Bedford van. It's like a Bedford minibus, but you know, like vans today, minibuses today have nice padded seats. This was like wooden benches, the most uncomfortable van on the planet. And when you think about the roads from Kilmarnock, which is where we were from, up to Aberdeen, oh my god, how we ever managed it. I mean, it's probably a couple of 100 miles, but there was no motorways back then, there was no dual carriageways, and it was just the worst roads in the world. I was talking to my auntie about it not so long ago, and she was saying that we actually broke down. I don't remember it, we actually broke down on the way, and my dad decided to, this was in the middle of the night, and my dad decided to wait till the morning to go and see if he could get a village nearby and get a mechanic to fix it. And apparently it was only, when we woke up we found it was only 100 yards away from the local mechanic, so He got a lot of stick for that, I think, because I had to bed down in this wee van. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. 7 of us! And my dad was a big fella. Where he slept, I haven't, probably on the roof. Anyway, we all eventually made it to Crovie. And Crovie's, when you actually get to the place, you have to go down this really steep hill. And I remember my dad standing up on the brake to try and stop us actually going into the sea in this minibus with 7 of us in. But it was one of those holidays that I've never forgotten. It's probably the most memorable holiday I've ever had, because we never went abroad, we never went anywhere exotic. Probably Largs was the most exotic place we ever went to. Anyway, Crovie was the furthest that we'd travelled, and it was a tiny, tiny little place. And I actually had a show up in Aberdeen about a year ago, and I decided to go and visit the place, and it's the first time I'd visited Crovie for about 50 years. And it was lovely. I took my son up, and it was lovely just seeing the place after so many years, and it's never ever changed. Never changed. And I can remember the little cottage that we stayed in, because all the cottages are built gable on to the sea to kind of protect it from the environment, the waves. And the cottage that we stayed in was actually facing, it was the only one in that stretch that was facing the sea. Number 13, and there it was. There it was after all those years, still there. And strangely enough, I found out later that the person that owns it today lives in Kilmarnock, strangely enough. And we were there for a week, but I remember it so clearly, so vividly, and it's stayed with us ever since. And so anyway, decided to do 2 paintings. This is one of them, and I kind of wanted to try and capture a wee bit of the atmosphere, how the light plays with the atmosphere and the water in the air. It's very subtle, but in this painting I wanted to capture a wee bit of the clearing skies that sometimes happens up there. And the other one I'll show you in a minute. The other one was dead easy to do. It was one of those that was a joy to do. This one was a fight, but it's turned out nice. I'm quite pleased with it. I thought I'd show you my other painting I did of Crovie. And this one was absolute joy to do. It was one of those paintings that it flowed. It was so easy to do, and I didn't have to think about this one. It's taken from the same kind of viewpoint as the other one, but kind of more of a zoomed in version. And it's got a lovely feel to it. It's got that special, you know when you're playing with light, it's got that lovely special light effect. It's really nice. If you ever get the chance, you must go and visit this little place. It's like, you know how Hollywood goes on about, or you know how Hollywood has this like kind of magical view of little Scottish places like Brigadoon that comes out in the mist every 20 years. Well, Crovie's a bit like that. It's like, if you want to get away from traffic, if you want to get away from the internet or the mobile phones, Crovie's your place. It's a magical wee place that survived for centuries. And it was actually made in the built in the 1700s, when the the Scots were getting driven out the land during the Highland clearances, and a group of people decided to make their home in this little enclave on that part of the country. You couldn't get further away from the land. You've got Crovie, then you've got a 6-foot path, and then you've got the sea. And how the place has survived so long, I'll never know, because I think it was nearly destroyed. I think it was 1953, if memory serves me right. That actually there was a terrible storm that nearly destroyed the place. There was a lot of destruction. A few houses were destroyed, and I think there was a few people killed as well. But the community still survived, and it's still there today. I think most of the houses are kind of holiday lets, so if you wanted to get away from it all and just, it's a bit like going back in time. If you wanted to experience a time shift or a time warp, Crovie's your place to go. It's lovely. It's a magical wee place. When we went with the family, as I say, there was 7 of us all together. But there was one night I remember there was a knocking at the door, and there's this big guy with one of these sou'wester things on, and he was banging at the door and he was saying, "Put your shutters up because there's going to be a storm tonight." And I remember my dad closing all the shutters, and the waves would hit the wall outside. It'd be like an 8-foot wall that would hit the wall, and the waves would come up over the roof. And I remember waking up the next morning, and we had to take the seaweed. The seaweed was hanging from the roof. It was such a fierce storm. But it's just that lovely memory I have of my childhood in that little place, and it's a lovely place to go back and paint as well. To be able to paint that wee place and capture some of the atmosphere of it. That's a real thrill to be able to do. Go and enjoy it. Go and see it. Go on the internet and hire one of those little cottages. Stay there for a week or a long weekend, and you'll just feel so refreshed. It's one of those little magic places. Go and see it.
Behind it, and a few pockets of low pressure, and a fairly heavy band of rain showers and snow.